Okay. Again, I'm sorry. I can't see. So just bear with me if I make any weird facial expressions or I get too close for comfort. I apologize. Hashem should connect us to the true tzaddikim who are alive today, the true tzaddikim who are buried in the earth. So the tzaddik Yisod Olam, Rabbi Nachman Fegazal, and every single one of us should hear exactly what we need to in order to draw a chiyut, life force, simcha, joy, emuna, shleima, complete faith that everything Hashem does for the best, that He loves us, that He's taking care of us, that He wants what's good for us, that He's going to bring us home. The ikar shleimu tavoda, the essence of the perfection of serving Hashem, hu litgaber me'od, that he should strengthen himself very much, lamed b'chol laila, to stand throughout the night b'chatzot laila, to get up at chatzot. K'movar b'zohar HaKadosh, like it says in the Zohar HaKadosh, v'chama v'chama makomot, in many different places. Migodel ha'azhara shemchuyav komi shenaga yirat Hashem, like the Shulchan Aruch says, the greater a person, his yira is, the more that he's going to want to get up for tikkun chatzot. Why? Because he knows that all suffering in his life and all suffering in the world comes from the fact that there's no Beit HaMikdash. Rabbi Nachman says in the second Torah of Likutey Moran that the tzaddik emet, he is building the Beit HaMikdash in every generation. And what is that Beit HaMikdash that he's building? Because we don't see one. So we're waiting for the collective one. We're waiting for the national one. But the Beit HaMikdash that Rabbi Nachman is speaking about on a personal level that the tzaddik emet is building is you. That you are personally what the Beit HaMikdash is collectively for the Jewish people. So the fact that you yourself are struggling with sadness and anxiety and fear, the fact that you yourself are struggling with financial issues and emotional issues and shalom bayit issues, self-esteem issues, and the list goes on, is because you are a Beit HaMikdash that's destroyed. Hashem said when He gave us the mitzvah for the Mishkan, which ultimately became the Beit HaMikdash, build a Mishkan, I'm going to dwell in them. And all of Chazal say, why? Because the Mishkan is a physical representation of a Jew when he's built, meaning that he has turned himself into a storehouse of godliness, that the revelation of Hashem comes through him. So when a Jew really knows, and the tzaddik really teaches him, that the reason why he's suffering is because he himself is a Beit HaMikdash and it's destroyed, then you have every reason to get up early in the morning and to mourn over the destruction of that Beit HaMikdash, because if you don't do it in the morning, when do you do it? The rest of your day. But you're not mourning the loss of the Beit HaMikdash, you're just in Yayush, despair. But when you realize that you yourself are the Beit HaMikdash that we're mourning for, and that we're praying every day to rebuild, then when you get up in the morning, early in the morning, before you start the day, you say, Hashem, I know that my suffering is not because of the physical events in my life. I have faith that the suffering is coming from the fact that I am not revealing the good that's inside of me. And you get up in the morning, and when you say Tikkun Chatzot, and you realize every single time that it's speaking about the Beit HaMikdash that was burnt down, and it was razed, and it was trampled on, it's talking about you. Then you can say it with tears, and you can mean it. And that's the reason why we don't chab Tisha B'Av. That's the reason why we don't connect to Tisha B'Av. Because we think that it's people, places, and things that's causing us suffering. And it's really the fact that we are destroyed. That our spiritual life has no place to reveal itself because we're so distraught by secular wisdom. We're so confused by emotional distress. But the truth is that when a person has complete emunah, and the Beit HaMikdash is built for himself, then he becomes a full revelation of godliness. Then Da'at shines in that place, right? And who's the one who builds the Mishkan? Only Moshe Rabbeinu. So we're saying here, why is the Zohar saying how great it is to get up at Chatzot specifically? Because the way that you rebuild your own personal Beit HaMikdash, your Mishkan, is to get up specifically right when the light starts to come in. Chatzot is the end of the time of judgment, and the light is not yet there, but it's the beginning of the possibility of good. And you need to get up at that time, dafka, specifically before it turns light, meaning before you're happy, because we're all constantly waiting for something good to happen to us, and that joy is going to drop into our lap. But Rabbi Nachman's teaching that the way that you attain joy, the way that you attain faith, the way that you attain clarity in your life and life force is to actually grab hold of yourself before the light comes. To force yourself to pray to Hashem, to experience that good even before it comes. And to do it specifically at a time of Chatzot. The time when you realize that Hashem really is the cause of the issue. It's not your physical issues, but you don't have a solution yet from Him. Get up then and mourn over the loss of the Beit HaMikdash, the loss over your own personal Mishkan. Hikar shleimut hamuna, because the essence of the perfection of Amuna Hakadosha, hu ayadei shemabadlin umshabrin mavarin midato shnei minei kushot ukafirot. Because the perfection of a person's Amuna and the Amuna of the Jewish people collectively comes from the nullifying, the destroying, the burning of the kushas that come from the two type of kashas. What were the two type of kashas that we learned? We have one kasha. It's the third type of kasha. Okay. We have two types of kashas. Remember Rabbi Nachman taught us. We have the types of kashas that can be answered, and we have the types of kashas that can't be answered. Rabbi Nachman says those types of kashas that can be answered, you need to spend as much time and as effort as possible answering those questions. However, those kashas that can't be answered, it is a sore for you to try and answer those questions. Because it's those questions that have no answers, not that they don't have answers, period, they don't have answers according to your limited level of understanding. So when you try and look into those questions, he compares it to a prostitute that you never come back. Just like a person that could have everything going for them. They might even be the president of the United States in 1996. And they achieved the dream of a secular person in the whole world, that they mamish have become like the king. And to lose everything over a girl in a moment of weakness. We're going to judge favorably now. Okay? Does that make any sense? Does it make any sense to do that? I'm not talking about at the moment, because you can't think clearly. But after you lose everything, including your family, your children, your job, everything you worked for 50, 60 years, gone. And that girl you're not interested in after, because she's not forbidden fruit to you anymore. So you have nothing.
That's how it feels usually.
Of course.
Once you have something that's forbidden, it's not enjoyable.
At all. 100%. It's just before. Once it's done, it's it. You feel horrible. So, Rabbi Nachman says, do we have any type of analogy to that within our own lives? Not in terms of physical actions that we could just, so to speak, lose it all. But is there something that we could think about that could make us, so to speak, lose it all? Like a prostitute that she's so enticing that I feel like I need to do it so bad, and yet once I have it, I lose everything. He says, yes, it's called chokhmot chitzoniot, secular wisdom. He compares it to a prostitute that you don't come back from. And as you can see, what's the reason that the entire Jewish people left the faith of Judaism? Because of the Enlightenment movement. And what did they think at the time? That they were finally going to progress. They're going to be like the nations of the world and to be able to actually experience intellectual enlightenment versus us, that we are far back in time living in tradition and in false ideology and X, Y, and Z. And Lamaisa, what's happened? I can tell you that most of the parents of my generation, they're in complete disarray because all of their children now are in total darkness. Whether they're marrying non-Jews or they are getting women pregnant and having to pay alimony without being with the children, or they're spending 20 years of their life still partying and drinking and not yet getting married, so the kids have no nachat from the kids. And the list goes on and on and on. There's drug abuse, substance abuse, and you can just, there's no nachat. When they thought the good would come from that. And the reason is because there's no good there. Secular wisdom is to Torah what nature is to Hashgacha Pratit. So again, the analogy. Secular wisdom is to Torah what nature is to Hashgacha Pratit, or so to speak, what the body is to the soul. What happens when you involve yourself in nature, you believe in Teva, then you don't get to experience Hashgacha Pratit, because the life force of nature or of Hashgacha Pratit, divine providence, comes in your belief in it. So too, when you invest your mind in thoughts that are rooted in secular wisdom, even it doesn't even have to be school, doesn't even have to be philosophy. It could be mamish. I'm just invested in a reality that what's good for me in my life is based on secular goals or values that has completely infiltrated my society to the extent that I don't know that that's not reality. How do you know you're invested in those thoughts? Because your emotions are going to be in complete chaos. If you feel that you are experiencing anxiety, sadness, lack of energy, lack of hope, lack of strength, it's because for at least a period of time, or maybe your whole life, you've been completely invested in secular wisdom. Because Rabbi Nachman says the essence of truth is it makes a person happy. So if the truth that you're contemplating is not making you happy, it's because what you're thinking about is not true, or it's not completely true. And that little bit of lack of truth is what's killing you. So that is the type of question that we don't have an answer right now for. But not because there isn't one, but because Mashiach is going to reveal the answer there. And therefore, the ability to experience complete Amunah, you have to crush these kashas. And you have to make them into kashas vanishkas. How do you say it? Kind of kasha vanishkas. I still love those, by the way. I haven't had them in like 6 years since I moved to Bukhara, but when I used to live in my Ashkenazi settlement, so Kashavanishkas very, very constantly. Shamananikas. Whatever, they're very good. Anyway, you have to crush those kashas. And that kafirut. And that kafirut, we're not talking about the guy over there, he doesn't keep Shabbat, he doesn't believe, and you're like, oh my gosh, how come you're not connected while I am? Rabbi Nachman's talking to you. You're the one who has kashas. They're in your own heart. Shehem akushot shiv shar, but these kashas, it's impossible as shiva lehem to answer them, shum teshuva v'terutz, with any type of answer or any type of resolution, ki aleihem ne'amar, because on them it's called kol be'eo lo yeshuvun. She is a woman that you go to and you don't come back. Utzrichin lismoch rak al emuna lavad. And for those questions that don't have answers, you need to rely on simple emuna completely. You understand what he's saying? What's the type of question that has an answer? The question you can go ask a rabbi. What's the type of question that doesn't have an answer? Why is it that if Hashem loves us so much, that we are going through trials and tribulations that you can't possibly fathom? And if you try and say that according to love, Hashem wouldn't do that to us, you're not going to find an answer that satisfies you. And if you delve deeply enough in that question and you don't rely on faith, you will go deeper and deeper into Yeush. But if you believe that Hashem really does love you, and He really does care about you, and He created you to be part of the Jewish people for a reason, even though you don't know what that is, then you must believe with faith that it's from His love for you, that you're going through what you're going through. And when the time is right, Hashem is going to reveal all these things were good for you. Not only were they good for you in retrospect, but Rabbi Nachman says the Chiddush of Mashiach is that He's going to show you that in fact, your lowest point in your life, that you thought that you were the most down, you were actually the most up. But you can't experience that right now, because if you were to experience that right now, you would lose your free will. And the entire good of this world comes from you choosing. And you can't choose when you know. So therefore, you can't know, but you can't ask. So what are you going to do? You have to simply believe. And furthermore, there are questions that it is possible to answer them. And also these kushot, there are times that even those questions that you're able to answer, Hashem will still hide the answer from you. It's not possible to answer your question. Meaning he's saying that for any question in the world, whether it's a question that you can't possibly answer, or it's a question that you could answer, you just don't have the answer, there are times Hashem hides all of the answers from you. And these questions are to every single person, these two types of questions, everybody according to their own level. According to the seichel, the consciousness which he has acquired through learning, through praying, through trying to connect closer to Hashem, everybody has these kushiot on their own levels. What is the tikkun? How do I fix this? How do I destroy and nullify and break these kashas from my heart? Both the ones I can answer and the ones that I can't answer, and I can't give up on trying to answer even though they're killing me. You need to merit to open up your consciousness, to know that everything is for the very best, that everything comes from Hashem. Ugalot shavile, and reveal the paths of seichel. Hu al yedei limud poskim. And here is the chiddush. The Rabbi Nachman says by learning poskim, by learning halachic decisors, arguing over what is psak halacha, meaning what are we allowed to do as Jews and what are we not allowed to do as Jews. Rabbi Nachman says in a very weird, behind the back, Kabbalistic, Hasidic way, that it actually takes those questions away from your heart, and what is left is called Amunah. I've told you that, guys, in the past, that Rabbi Nachman said in his will that even though everybody knows Rabbi Nachman is the one who was insistent that you're always besimcha, who was insistent that you come to him for Uman Rosh Hashanah, who is insistent that you do everything to have joy, who is insistent that you have good friends and you hang out with those friends and you have a chazik and encourage each other in trying to achieve real good in your lives. And all the things that people attach to and they like about Rabbi Nachman naturally. And the one that nobody speaks about is the one that he actually said in his will. And that is that if you are a student of his, you need to make sure every single day without fail, you have a time that you learn the Shulchan Aruch. What's the reason? So you would think it's simply because he wants you to know the laws. But everybody wants you to know the laws. And that's not a chiddush by him. But maybe the real reason is because Rabbi Nachman says the key to having real emunah is by nullifying the questions that are in your heart. And the only way to nullify the questions that are in your heart is to look at those questions from Kedusha, meaning look at those people who are arguing L'Shem Shemayim for the absolute truth, which reaches its resolution in halacha, right? The questions are asked in Gemara, just like the questions in your heart about mundane or personal things. Questions are also being asked in the Gemara on very high, very lofty things. How do you get an answer here in your heart? When you answer the question in the Gemara. How do we answer the question in the Gemara? by looking at the Shulchan Aruch. What is the Psak Halacha? And Rabbi Nachman says that if you learn poskim every day, somehow those questions that are in your heart philosophically or emotionally or psychologically about your life and about your community and about your society and about your circumstances are all going to nullify. And you're going to be left with a munah. And now it would make sense why Rabbi Nachman says you must learn Shulchan Aruch every day, because Rabbi Nachman's whole entire mission was that you should have a munah, because a munah is geula. And then you merit to shalom, to peace. And then you destroy the machloket, not the machloket l'shem shamayim, you destroy the machloket that's in your heart. And this is actually, truthfully, apikorsis. That this is the atheism that it says in Pirkei Avot that you need to know how to answer the atheist. And we think we're talking about our Nebuch next door neighbor who Hashem put us next to. That we need to get into a debate with him and to explain to him why the truth is that Hashem exists. Rabbi Nachman says it's not what he's talking about. Chazal is saying when you need to answer the apikorsis, it's talking about yourself. How do you answer the atheism that's in your own heart? When you're worried and you're anxious about money, and you're worried and you're anxious about health, and you're worried and you're anxious about your children, and you're worried and you're anxious about society, how do you answer that atheist? V'zochin leda'at. You do it by learning poskim and halacha, by learning the Shulchan Aruch. And then you merit to know how to answer the apikorsis that's in your heart. And through this, sarichin likaber lakum b'chotz halayla. And because of this, you need to strengthen yourself to get up at chatzot specifically to do it. Meaning, what's the best time to learn halacha? Rabbi Nachman saying to do this at chatzot. Say tikkun chatzot and follow up by learning halacha. And by doing this, you have a complete tikkun for Amunah. What? Gemara is nighttime period. Just nighttime. The best learning that you could possibly do, according to Chazal, according to Zohar, according to the Hasidic masters, is from Chatzot until the light comes. So everybody agrees on that. In terms of Rabbi Nachman's lesson about learning Gemara at night, he just meant stam. Obviously, when would be the best time to learn it? The best time would be to learn anything. That's after Chatzot. But he's saying, B'davka, by learning halacha, the best time to do that is at the time of Chatzot. Because Chatzot is the time when you can rectify Amunah the best. Because that's when the Jewish people were taken out of Mitzrayim. That's when Abraham defeated the 4 kings. Right? All these things happened at Chatzot. Why? Because Chatzot is a Segula Dika time. It's a special time to be able to rectify your faith. And therefore, what's the best thing to do when you get up at Chatzot? Rabbi Nachman says, learn halacha. And by doing this, you remove your questions for the day. And it doesn't make any sense. It's not a logical thing. The only logical thing that we could say about it is that by engaging in questions of Kedusha, of holiness, of halacha, by doing that and finding a resolution there, we take away the questions and the resolutions we're looking for from our own heart. Because we're elevating those questions to holy questions and we're finding holy answers. Versus when we're not doing that, then automatically we have to have those questions, but they're not taking place in the Shulchan Aruch, they're taking place in our own heart. And our free will, our choice comes in, where do we want to engage in the questions and answers? We can either do it in the Gemara and the Poskim, or we can do it within our own heart. Ki yom v'layla, because day and night, shehem bechinat or v'choshech. Because day and night are the concept of light and darkness. Hem bechinat da'at uchsilut. Daytime is the concept of knowing that everything comes from Hashem, everything is for the best, and everything is because He loves you. Nighttime is the concept of kasilut, foolishness. What foolishness is the Torah speaking about? Not believing that, believing the opposite. That what's happening in your life is not coming from Hashem, but it's coming from people, places, and things. It's coming from your own physical, scientific, natural circumstances that's dictating your unfortunate nature of your life. And that's called nighttime. That's called foolishness. Shehu astara yediyah. And the only reason why you're feeling like that is not because that's the actual case, but because Hashem himself is hiding from you, that he's the one who's causing what's happening in your life. So there are times that Hashem is revealing to you that it's him, and there's times that he's hiding, what the Baal Shem Tov called hide and go seek. That Hashem is playing hide and go seek with every Jew. But you're the one who has to seek. And if you don't seek, then you just see Hashem hiding. And when Hashem reveals himself to you, that's called daytime. That's called boker. That's called light, or. Like it says Torah or. Why is it called Torah or? Because when you learn Torah, you feel that Hashem is the one who's doing things. When you stop learning Torah, you feel like it's people, places, and things. That's called nighttime. But the truth is, it's not just that when it's daytime, I feel that it's from Hashem, or when I'm learning, I feel it's from Hashem. And then when it's nighttime, or when I'm not learning, I don't feel it's from Hashem. It's that Hashem literally is removing that conscious awareness that it's him from you. He's doing it to you. Like Rabbeinu taught us in Likutey Moran, Siman Lamed Zayin, Shadat hu bechinat or, the da'at, consciousness, God consciousness is the concept of light. Haksilut and foolishness, bechinat hastarat idea, which is truly a concealment of that knowing that everything is from Hashem. That's the concept of choshech, darkness. Because darkness is drawn from the darkening of the mind. The darkening of your knowledge, of your consciousness. Which is the concealment of knowing that things are happening and they're coming from Hashem. And because Hashem is hiding from you, you now have questions in your heart about everything that's happening to you. Like we said many times, and I've spoken about this in the past. There are times people are going through things for days, for months, for years. All of a sudden, he goes to a Breslov mashpia, and he goes to a class, and the whole class, it's getting hammered into his hand. It's not from your wife, it's from Hashem. It's not from your kids, it's from Hashem. It's not because of your job, it's from Hashem. It's not because of your doctors, it's from Hashem. And on and on and on. And you know what happens to that person? He feels tremendous joy and relief. Why should he feel joy and relief from that? His situation didn't change. You understand what I'm saying? Your situation is not changing because we said it's from Hashem. Because Rabbeinu taught us it's all from Hashem, everything. Because the suffering is not coming from the event itself. The suffering is coming from not thinking it's from Hashem. Once a Jew thinks that what's happening in his life is from Hashem, he stops suffering. Because he knows that Hashem loves him and is taking care of him and only wants what's good for him. And therefore, in a way, he doesn't understand this is good for him. But as long as a person doesn't think it's from Hashem and thinks it's from something else, immediately and automatically, he starts to feel emotional turmoil, intellectual confusion. That's the concept of darkness.
A person thinks that it's him is the problem because he's sinned. So it's not really Hashem is doing it, but bottom line is he's the one who's causing this to happen. If he would not, he's going to Yeyush, he's going to depression and sadness because.
But you need to understand, and Rabbi Nachman said this over and over again, and Rav Natan brought this down 1,000,000 times in his letters to his children and to his students. The main thing is to be happy. Rav Natan and Rav Nachman said the main thing is to be happy, to be b'simcha no matter what's going on in your life. Why? We think that it's our own lackings that's causing us unhappiness. That's not what's causing you unhappiness. It's your Yetzer Hara. You have to fight him. What does it mean to fight him? With whatever you have inside of you. whether you have to dance, whether you have to sing, whether you have to hang out with friends, whether you have to listen to music, whether you have to play basketball with your friends, whatever it is that you have to do, you have to go do it because your ability to grow spiritually is dependent on you being happy. So even though, for sure, there are negative repercussions from Jews doing Averot, and those are causing concealments of godliness from that person's life, at the same time, his ability to grow and elevate from that place is not dependent on him feeling sad about it. That's the work of the Yetzer Hara. It's your ability to believe that everything is from Hashem, and I'm going to be happy, and from here, I'm going to start to grow. I've said this many times. You never see transformations from the lowest darkness to the greatest heights like you see with the Rabbi Nachman's students. That they literally go from being the poster boy for all the things which Hashem says are not what we should be doing to becoming mamish leaders of the generation. How do they do something like that? One of the main reasons is because of Rabbi Nachman's insistence that you be happy. It's the simcha itself, it's the joy itself that gives you the ability to work on yourself. Like for instance, a person who has depression, he goes to a therapist. As long as he's depressed, he can't work on himself. So the first thing that he needs to do is to find joy in his life, to find gratitude, to find happiness and solitude in whatever he does have. And once he starts to look at his life more accurately, meaning he realizes that everything is not bad, and that he is not a complete loser, and that he is not a failure, and when he realizes he's a person, he's doing the best that he can, these are his circumstances, and in fact he has a lot of good, all of a sudden he can start to feel happy. And once he starts feeling happy, now the therapist can start to work on him, on working with how he thinks, and working with how he feels, and working on what he can do in his life, in job, and in self-discipline, and in work. But you cannot work on things when you're sad. So the first step is to be happy. And the Yetzer Hara is going to trick you and make you think, but I can't be happy because I'm doing bad things. That is why you need to rely on the tzaddik. That when the Rebbe tells you, you should be b'simcha tamid always, he didn't mean only when you're doing good things. He meant even when you're not doing the right things. You need to always be b'simcha. No, 1 second. Because a Jew naturally wants to do good. The nature of a Jewish neshama is it wants to do the right things, whether it's secular or religious, whether it's Sephardi or Ashkenazi. It doesn't make a difference. The essence of a Jew is good. So why isn't he doing good? Because he's not happy. So what's the key to a Jew doing good? To be happy. Because I'm saying that you have to work on it? So there's two ways to have happiness. One way of happiness is Hashem is giving you happiness. That comes from tremendous work on yourself, a lot of learning, a lot of praying, a lot of growing as a person. That's the happiness that comes from Hashem. But let's say you're in the pits, like we all start, or like we continue to be in. Rabbi Nachman says there you need to pull yourself out. How do you pull yourself out? Like, for instance, in therapy now, there's a big thing where they tell you to act happy even before you're happy. What's the reason? Because they've noticed that when a person acts and does the things he would do when he was happy, even though he's not happy, he becomes happy. What does that mean practically? Let's say, for instance, when a person was in a good tekufa in their life, a good place in their life. COVID, right, 100%. Good example. Okay, a person, very good. We have the economy is shot. Everybody is in disarray and confusion about where they're going to go from here economically, as well as physical health. Yeah, financially and support for my family. And also, a lot of people are in the 50, 60 year age range and they are at higher risk for health stuff, so they're even more concerned about getting whatever this thing is. Yeah, and you see your friends and family, possibly chas v'shalom, that they've gotten sick or even passed away, and all of a sudden you have all these things coming in on you at once. Rabbi Nachman says in Sefer Midot, he wrote this book when he was 8. He said that if there's a pandemic that sweeps over the world and a person has real yira in Hashem, he not only won't be afraid of the pandemic, he will actually be happy when everybody else is frightened. So what does that mean? That means that when you don't believe in economy and society and people, place, and things, and you redirect your belief in Hashem, and you say, instead of me believing that things are going bad because the economy looks like this or because my job looks like this, instead take those doubts and throw them on Hashem and realize that Hashem is the cause of your lacking. By doing that, automatically, you restore your emunah. Your ability to do that, though, is dependent on you speaking to Hashem. This is the one thing nobody wants to hear because nobody wants to do this. But it can't get away from the fact that this is a reality according to Rabbi Nachman. Your ability to internalize that everything comes from Hashem comes from nothing else except by speaking to Him. The more you speak to Him, the more you'll believe that everything is from Him. So what is the answer in the COVID? The answer is, ironically, from what Israel calls the time of isolation itself. Right? Here we call it what? Quarantine. What is quarantine called in Israel? Bidud. What does that sound like? What is that the root of? Hibodedut. You hear? You hear? You hear? In the natural world, we're all suffering. Why? Because according to Teva, we have to go into bidud. We have to go into isolation. We're being.
Rabbi Kalmus, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
You sure it's not just you? No, I'm asking because I just want to make sure. Robert, can you hear me? Can anybody else hear? Anybody at all?
Yeah, Rabbi. I hear you perfectly.
Okay, Benny, you're going to have to fix your phone. So like this. What?
No, I'm just talking to myself.
Okay. The world is teaching every country we have to go into bidud. We have to go into self-isolation, and we're all feeling like this is the cause of our problems. And in an ironic and paradoxical way, Rabbi Nachman says that if you look at bidud correctly and you embrace it, then not only is isolation not the worst thing in the world, it's the best thing in the world. It's going to bring your geula. So turn the bidud, the isolation, the quarantine, into hibodedut. Yeah? And this is what's going to turn all of your emotional angst and suffering into emunah. Bidud. 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 And it's the root of the word hibodedut, which is boded, to be alone. Okay? So therefore, instead of feeling scared about being alone, embrace it. As I heard a person say on the Breslov Research Institute channel, it was a cute thing he said. It sounded like something from a movie of the 70s. You need to learn to enjoy to run in the rain. Okay? Don't run away from the rain. Enjoy the rain. Don't run away from being in isolation. Go run to be in isolation. In hibodedut. Not isolation from despair, isolation of hope. Not isolation of sadness, isolation of joy. And you can see that, in fact, like Rabbi Nachman teaches, there's a pasuk in Tehillim, it says, Bitsar bechaftali. In the constriction, in the narrowness, Hashem creates a relief for me. So the simple understanding is that the difficulty, Hashem is going to give us a relief eventually, ultimately. The relief is going to come. Rabbi Nachman says that's not really what it means. Bitzar bechaftali means that in the narrowness itself, in the problem itself, Hashem is creating my relief. Meaning that I have been yearning for something in my life. And then all of a sudden a problem comes on me and we don't understand because I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to find happiness. I'm trying to find contentment. I'm trying to find peace in my life. And then all of a sudden Hashem throws something else on me and we don't get it. Why would Hashem do that to us? And the answer is B'tzar bechaftali, that the relief is in the tsar itself. Where is there relief in a problem? The relief is in bidud, isolation. Because before the problem, you had no motivation or no impetus to actually have to go speak to Hashem. And at the same time, you're praying to Hashem that you should be happy and that you should have financial stability and that you should have peace in your home, that you should have health. And all those things come from talking to Hashem. So what does Hashem do? He gives you a problem. And what does the problem cause you to do? You can't find a solution in the natural world, and you're forced to go talk to Hashem. And then you found the relief in the problem itself. And then you say thank you to Hashem that He gave you the problem. But your ability to find the relief comes from you going and talking to Hashem. And this is what's brought in the Zohar. Kad Paris Leilya Gadfaha Azai Mistamnin Tarin Dagan Eden Binumuse Gardunin Nafkin Ba'alma Ba'alma Inaheg Al Yada the Matronita. So the Zohar says like this, that at nighttime spreads out the wings and then conceals the gates of Gan Eden and goes the klipot and they go out to the world and the world is going on the matronita, that is the malchut, the shekhinah, meaning like this. The concept of daytime is that Hashem is revealing Himself to you. Yud Kei Vav Kei. But at nighttime, that's the time when Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem hides Himself. And as soon as He hides Himself, nighttime, the klipot come out. Because nighttime is the time that you can choose to do something else. We're going to see in a second. One second. I can't see because I don't have my context. I'm not going to be able to see it. Just give me a second. So it's nighttime, right? Does Hashem ever leave you alone?
He's there 24/7.
Okay, but where is He if He's hiding from you? So what's there? So then He's not there. Who's down here with you? Besides, what does the Torah say about when the Jewish people go into Chutz La'aretz, when they go into exile? Who goes with them? The Shekhinah, very good. So the Zohar teaches during the daytime Hashem is revealing Himself to you. And at nighttime Hashem hides Himself. The klipot come out, but the Shekhinah is spreading its wings. Because the Shekhinah is with you when the klipot are out. And what is the Shekhinah? It's the Malchut. Malchut is Emunah. Meaning, the revelation of Hashem that's available for you at nighttime when things are difficult and challenging is not the one that Hashem is revealing Himself to you and showing you that it's good. That part of Hashem is being hidden from you. It's going up to Gan Eden. Where is Hashem with you while you're going through the challenges? Only with the Shekhinah. And the Shekhinah is your own Emunah. That is the godliness that's left with you in your life. How does a person experience that part of God during nighttime? There's only one way to experience Emunah, Rabbi Nachman says, through speech, through tefillah. So what do I do during the daytime? Learn. What should I do at nighttime? Pray. Why? Because Emunah is tefillah. So the Shekhinah, you can only access her by speaking to Hashem. Yeah, 100%. Just 1 second. I just want to see what time it is. Let me just finish this piece, and if we have questions, if we have time for questions. Az mitgaber hahoshech, and then the darkness strengthens itself. Shehua eder adad. This is the concealment of Hashem concealing from you that He's the cause of what's happening to you. Hu matimat tarin dagan eden. This is the fact that the Shekhinah is coming down, and Hashem Himself, so to speak, is going up to Gan Eden. Shehem bechinat shavile aseichel. Ba'az nimuse gardunin nafkin ba'alma. And then the forces of the Sitra Achra, they come out, the Klipot and the Dinim. Sheikar achizatam v'kafirat v'kushot. And where do the Klipot reveal themselves to you? In your own doubts. Your own doubts and your own questions that are plaguing you are actually coming from those klipot. They're not from you in and of yourself. A Jew doesn't have any questions. It's the klipot that are causing him to have questions. And they're coming from nighttime. They're coming from Hashem hiding Himself from you. This is the concept of the gates of Gan Eden being locked at nighttime. Okay. Does anybody have any questions in the last couple minutes before we start the Gemara shiur? This is Likutey Halachot. This is Rav Natan. Yes, 100%. If you go to Safra, no. If you go to Safra, you can get it. They have a one that's in English and Hebrew, the beginning. This one's only in Hebrew. You can get it? Okay, but I'm just letting you know that if you get it from Safra, you can tell them you get it from my organization. You can get it without tax, okay? Yeah. It's not that you're not allowed to cry. It's better not to cry. Just start with this one. You'll be good for a while. Yeah? I would love to buy them. I just, yeah. I don't have the resources to get everybody books, but I would love to. I don't have time either, but if anybody wants to go get the books, okay, and buy it. You should. Yeah, we'll make up copies. Someone will take a picture. You'll take a picture, and then when you go to Safra, tell them it's for Tzia, and tell them you want 5 copies, no tax. Okay?
On Shabbat.
Shabbat.
He's crying out on Shabbat. He's not allowed to do it on Shabbat.
They say that it's better not to cry on Shabbat from sadness.
But you're doing tshuva.
But that tshuva on Shabbat is not supposed to be from sadness.
Out of happiness?
Yeah.
So on Shabbat is the only time you do tshuva out of happiness.
No, you're always supposed to be doing tshuva out of happiness. Having a broken heart. What's that? We're not really supposed. But there's 2 different types of tshuva. There's tshuva of like. I'm really trying to work on my lackings, and there's tshuva of I'm returning to Hashem. Shabbat itself comes from the word tshuva. If you take the word Shabbat, you flip it around, it's teshuv. So the main thing on Shabbat is to be happy.
So if a person's saying thank you and he's a little like really, really happy, and he's almost like like I don't know about like whining, but in a voice is like a little more like sad, but out of happiness. That's okay. However, when a person is doing tshuva, he's really regretting it and he's almost in tears. That's not allowed.
Regretting is okay, and being in tears is okay. It's there's a difference between brokenhearted and sadness. Brokenheartedness is when you are, when you feel for what you did and you're yearning for more good. When you're yearning for good.
Well, of course, that's part of it.
But sadness is when I feel that there's no hope. When that conversation that I'm having with Hashem is causing me to feel lack of energy, lack of strength, lack of motivation.
Shame.
No.
Rabbi Natan talks about shame. It's supposed to go to fear of Hashem. It's to have shame.
Yeah, but that shame is not the type of shame that's causing you sadness. It's a different type of shame. We have to be able to separate these things, because things that we have called, let's say, brokenheartedness or sadness, we're not saying it according to the way that the Torah uses it. So we're going to have to spend more time talking about it. But very simply put, when you're doing tshuva, and that tshuva is coming from a broken heart, and you're yearning for something better in your life, that is a good thing. But when you are talking to Hashem and you're crying, not because you're yearning for something better, but you're crying because you feel so bad about your life, you're feeling so bad about yourself, and you feel like you are hopeless and your situation is hopeless, that is not what Rav Natan and Rabbi Nachman are speaking about. That's not what Chazal is speaking about. And the only way to actually do tshuva, Rabbi Nachman says, is to first be besimcha. To be happy. To be happy. It's impossible to do tshuva unless you're happy first.
You do thank yous. You're happy.
Okay, good.
And then you're doing tshuva.
Good.
I'm sorry. And then at the end,
Right.
you're saying, I did what I did.
Right, but all
You
this is
still love
more
me,
for the
and
week.
let's-
On Shabbat, it's more about thank you.
So more thank yous, less tshuva.
Shabbat is more about just being. During 6 days of the week are about growing. Shabbat is about experiencing. Shabbat is a taste of Olam Haba. Okay? Otachanun, there's a lot of things that we don't do on Shabbat. Shabbat is the day that's kulo good. Kulo tov. Okay? Everybody, an amazing day. Tonight, Likutey Moran. What? It's the greatest book that was ever written. You think that, but I think not like that. I don't think every book that was ever written is great. And even though there are a lot of great ones, this is the greatest one. This is my opinion. Likutey Halachot is amazing. We do it 4 times a week. Therefore, it's kedai to get. Likutey Moran, you should. They have the first few lessons in English. They still need to come out with about 80 more sections, books. The English one, he's going to send it to you. So you take his number after class, okay? Tonight, Likutey Moran, 9 p.m. We'll see you then. Everybody have an amazing day. Yes.